is the morning meeting. Sean Spicer once again denied his bid to become Person of the Year, but it did go to Donald Trump, who Sean knows. So
I was number
mixed feelings.
six.
Mixed
Number
feelings with
six.
Spicer. Hold on. Thank you for joining. We love having you watch this program. We love having you participate. If you're here on the two-way platform, raise your hand. Get in on the conversation. We love first time, long time. We've had some of those this week. Love it. If you're watching on two-way on YouTube, great. Peace, love, and understanding. That imbues, it animates everything we do. We hope it'll be the same with you. And so if you're thinking of writing garbage in the chat, just think, is what I'm writing consistent with the ethos of peace, love, and understanding, the presumption of grace for all? Like Kellyanne Conway would say, don't do it if it's not nice. Like Bambi's mom would say, if you can't write something nice in the chat on YouTube or here on the two-way platform, don't write anything at all. I'm not sure, I may not be quoting Bambi's mother exactly right, but you get the point. Thank you for joining. I'll run through the day. 9:30 Eastern time, in about 30 minutes from now, Donald Trump is expected to ring the bell. First time he's done it, which is nuts. No president's done it since President Reagan as president at the New York Stock Exchange floor. We will bring that to you, as we say, on the NFL Today pregame show live. So be ready for that. Let me run through some things before then. Gentlemen, good morning. Happy holidays. The Spicer tree is up and about. Very exciting. So maybe we'll see a bit of that as well. Dan, good morning to you. Dan, yesterday you made a television appearance where you were told the host said it was like meeting what did they say, meeting like a legend, a TV legend? What they call
A political celebrity, which I
political
definitely,
celebrity.
blushed
All right.
right on camera.
Yeah, maybe we'll do it. We don't usually do surveys, but if we did a survey, the question would be today, do you consider Dan Turrentine a political celebrity? I think I know what most of you would say. All right. Joe Biden intelligence brief at 10 a.m. Eastern time. 1:30, the White House press secretary briefs this morning, pre-dawn. The White House put off the embargo that Joe Biden's breaking the record today for the number of people with clemency and pardons in a single day. We don't have the names yet. That could break during this show.
I'm not saying, look, I don't know how long it took to put together, but you do recall that we kind of threw that idea out yesterday. So
yes, yeah, I know. We're trying to cover the news, not make the news, but every so often, it's just inevitable. So that list will be interesting. And of course, yesterday, as many of you know, Anita Dunn, longtime Biden advisor, gave some pretty piquant remarks about the Hunter Biden pardon. The remarks were actually not made yesterday. They were made about a week ago when the New York Times did this post-election panel thing. Kind of an interesting sidebar media thing. The Times sat on those remarks. If I was over at the New York Times, I don't know if they had some embargo agreement, but I would have put those out. Kind of more impactful a week ago when they first were said. We'll talk a little bit about that. Vice President of the United States, as I always say it with me. Here's her schedule. She'll be in Washington, D.C., where she will receive briefings and conduct internal meetings with staff.
Mark,
These
can I
meetings
go
will
back?
be closed press.
I don't understand. I mean, that was a lot. I mean, I don't mean to interrupt, but I think.
Yeah, you can always interrupt. I never mind.
I know that. That's why I do it. Why do you think that was a New York Times hosted panel, correct?
Yeah, you'd think they'd have a sense of news, a nose for news.
But there were also reporters on the panel, right?
Yeah. Oh, Maggie Haberman was the moderator.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, but maybe there was an embargo. I don't know the answer. All I know is it was like a week ago, because yesterday I texted someone about it who was on the panel, and she said, "Oh, that was like a week ago."
Right.
Did they put
remember
that
we
thing
talked
out?
about it. We mentioned who was on the panel.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why. No, there's no embargo I've ever heard in 30 years of doing this. It's lasted a week.
Well, the Harvard post-election panel years ago was in fact embargoed. And it was like this little Jedi mind trick on all the participants. It's like it's embargoed until the book comes out, and the book doesn't come out for like 5 months. And so people said stuff they wouldn't otherwise say, because 5 months, it's an eternity. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. We showed the Anita Dunn thing. We showed Kellyanne Conway in a kerfuffle from that event. I haven't had time to watch the whole thing, but again, a little bit weird.
Right, I'll get it.
And by the way, there was an audience there, and nobody tweeted.
Right, that's what I mean. You can't embargo the audience. Where was it? Yeah. All right. I'll have an answer tomorrow why that wasn't. I just don't get why it wasn't.
We'll get the answer now, dude, with the instant gratification program. Text somebody while I'm talking. All right. I told you what the vice president's doing. These meetings will be closed press. Donald Trump, 9:30, rings the bell. Moments ago, as we say in the media business, Donald Trump's aide-de-camp, Margot Martin, who is an incredible content producer. Okay. She tweeted this out. Show the tweet, please. tweeted and said Donald Trump got there early because Donald Trump is loving this. He's loving ringing the bell. Here, Donald Trump signs the New York Stock Exchange guest book and learns he is the first president to ring the bell since Reagan. Roll videotape.
You will be excited to know that you are the first president to ring the bell since Ronald Reagan.
Interesting job.
Ronald Reagan, March 28th, 1985, where he addressed the floor. Yes, it's a great honor to have you.
All right, JD Vance, no public
Hold on,
events.
Mark.
So, yeah,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
got a premonition.
Yeah.
You're going to see Donald Trump use that quote multiple times in the next week where he says, I don't know if you know this, but I was the first. I mean, I'm getting a strong feeling.
Sean, I think he might even say it like this. It was my great honor.
Yeah.
What a great honor. So Donald Trump is old fashioned. I just got a text from my colleague saying, no one cares about the cover of Time magazine. You're wrong. There's one person who does. Donald
Have you ever
John
been
Trump.
to Mar-a-Lago or a Trump property?
Here's my macro thesis, and then I'll throw it over to you guys. Donald Trump was denied so much in his first, transition and inaugural because it was all about Russia, and it, lost the popular vote. This is what he lives for. I'm not saying he's not in this to help America, the border, all that stuff, but Donald Trump has spent decades wanting the accolades of the establishment. Cover of Time magazine, invited to ring the bell, inviting Premier Xi to his inauguration. Like all these things he's getting to do now are sweet, sweet, sweet satisfaction for him because more than anyone, like he said to Bill Clinton, you'd be on the cover of Time magazine, whatever. But for Donald Trump, this is like it. And so part of why he's in a good mood is it's all coming to him. The Time article, when you read the Time article, you can go online and read it. We're still waiting for the interview. So we'll see what news is there. There may be something in there about J6, which is off message a little. The Time article is an incredible artifact because it is not snarky or negative. It's almost treating him like he's the duly elected president of the United States who's bringing hope and optimism to the country. And
the
and
editor
that
was
is
on the
totally
Today Show
different.
this morning and actually had very nice things to say.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I don't know. Look, I woke up today. Donald Trump's ringing the New York Stock Exchange bell. Mark Zuckerberg gave him $1 million. That he's on the cover of Time and they're saying nice things. Pete Hegseth had a really good day yesterday. The FBI director resigned. I mean, I feel like I don't want to jinx there's something right now going, okay, just keep going. That means Navy's going to win on Saturday, by the way. We're on a roll.
It's on a roll. So Dan, Sean and I agree, and I know you do too. JD Vance has no public events. I may not have said that. Oh, sorry. One other thing from the daybook or two. The incoming border czar meets with Mayor Adams at 1:00 today in New York City. And then Adams has a press conference at 3:00. Watch that. Dan, how are Democrats, do you think, viewing the role he's on? I mean, he's dominating the transition. Biden has receded. The pardon thing is, I don't think, going to be a good news story for Joe Biden. How are Democrats grappling with this? And should they just sit back and watch, or should they try to muddy it up?
No, I think, as we talked about earlier in the week, I think it's humiliating and maddening that Donald Trump is basically the president right now. I mean, he is dominating coverage. He is being feted. I mean, look, to Sean's point, I think a lot of people in the Democratic Party and just kind of in the establishment in 2016 felt like he didn't really win. He lost the popular vote. He won a handful of swing states by such small margins. The Russia allegations kind of quickly surfaced. Now it's like he won. The party doesn't really know where to go. It doesn't have a leader right now stepping forward during this vacuum. And I think Trump's having a honeymoon, and, good for him. Like, the man loves a good visual. The man understands optics. He understands the projection of strength. And, good for him. And I think for the Democratic Party, there's not much you're going to do between now and January. Once he becomes president and everything's on his plate and world and domestic events just start happening, you'll have opportunities to get back on offense. But right now, there's a reason they call it a honeymoon.
So last night on World News, sorry, is this live? What is this?
And there was a lot of goodwill.
All right, let's listen.
We're going to get some really
It's live, folks.
tremendous goodwill. I was even thinking about inviting
All right,
certain
let's just
people
take it.
to the inauguration.
Settle in, everybody. He's going to talk till 9:30
probably.
probably.
Risky, isn't it? And I said, maybe it is. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Look
But
who's
we like
with
to
him,
take
though.
little chances.
Is that
It's
JD
everybody.
It's not a
Vance?
bad chance.
JD?
There's a gentleman that's going to
Is
do
that
a
Melania?
great job at HUD.
Howard
Good luck,
Lutnick?
my friend, right? He's good.
Burgum's with
gang-
him.
He's
the
been
gang
my
is
friend
all
for
there.
a long time.
Wow.
It's nice to see you. I haven't
I have a
shaken
question.
his
Is
hand
Mayor
yet.
Adams there?
Probably not.
Really, you're going to be great.
Scott
And Ben
Besson
Carson
is there.
your
Bobby
biggest fan in
Kennedy.
the world. You know that. Ben is,
The governor of
been
North
with us for a
Dakota
long
is
time.
there.
He's done a fantastic job. Thank you.
Is that Ivanka to the right? I
So,
can't.
ladies and gentlemen,
Good question.
go
Guys,
on.
is
We're
that
going
Ivanka?
to-
It
I
is.
think it is.
That's
We're going
Ivanka.
straight. We're going to give
That's
tremendous
Ivanka,
incentives
Melania,
like no other country has. We're
Brooke
cutting
Rollins.
And who is that?
We're going to cut them very
Who's- yeah.
substantially.
Brooke
We got 'em
Rollins.
down to 21%
Yeah.
from probably
Sean,
42 or
who's the guy on the
44%,
far
Kelly
left?
Loeffler?
depending on where you are.
Kelly
We're
Loeffler
down
is
to
far
the
left.
21. Everyone said that was
So
a
Kelly
miracle.
Loeffler's
Now
husband
we're getting
owns
them
the
down
stock
to
exchange.
15, but
So that's how
only
she
if
got
you
in.
make your product here.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you
That's why
pay
she gets that
21,
stand
which is
there.
not bad. It's in the middle of the pack, but 15
Oh,
brings you
there's
down
the
to
other
a
daughter.
number lower.
Tiffany,
Tiffany.
Pam Bondi,
This is like his
Meredith
bar.
O'Rourke
This
to
is
the far-
this is
Those that are
like
running the
this
big
is like his bar
Meredith
mitzvah.
O'Rourke
Big,
to the
beautiful
far
companies.
right. I mean,
Nobody's gonna be
our
leaving
whatever
us.
that
You're gonna be
next to
coming back. You're
Tiffany.
gonna be
That's
bringing it back
finance
to the
director
United
Meredith
States.
O'Rourke.
We are
Yeah,
incentivizing
the Trump bar
everybody
mitzvah.
to come
The
back.
Trump
I
bar
mean,
mitzvah.
I think, Mark,
On the
you
far
said
left
it.
is
Back
the
here.
HUD
Car
the HUD
manufacturers,
nominee.
everybody.
Mark, I
And
think
we
you
have
said
one
it
product
before.
that
I mean, for
nobody
folks
has, really,
having
to the
grown up in
extent
the
that
New York
we do.
City
It's
area,
called
you
oil
can't
and gas.
understate
There is no
how
country in the
resentful
world
he
that has
was
more. We're number
that the
one.
establishment
I brought it
shunned
to number
him,
one
his
during my
and his
first term in
father,
terms of
the
production.
entire
We're
rise.
going to be
Like,
number one.
he was a
plus. We'll
Queens,
do
Brooklyn
numbers
guy.
that,
He came into
nobody
Manhattan.
will
He was
really
not a
see before.
WASP.
And when that
He was
happens,
just
prices are
considered
gonna
kind of
start coming
trash
down
from the
because
outer
people can't
boroughs.
afford their
He was
groceries,
never
and they're gonna
accepted
be
for
affording
this
their
type of
groceries
stuff,
very
like
soon.
ever. And then even
I
when he
told a
became
story about
president,
a
he was
woman who-
never
Yep.
accepted.
Hold on.
And to have this, it is like his bat
Yeah,
mitzvah.
yeah,
You
you're
know,
right.
it's like,
Let's
grocery store, had
listen.
three
Let's listen a
apples.
little bit. See what he's
She
talking
put
about.
him down on the counter and she looked and she saw the price and she said, "Would you excuse me?" And she walked one of the apples back to the refrigerator and came back to pay for the two apples. And she left with two apples. And the woman at the counter said that was so sad. And when I heard about the story, I said, that should never happen in America. And it's not going to happen in America. We're going to do it right. And we're going to take care of our people. And we're going to do things that nobody ever thought even were possible. But we're going to have an economy the likes
Fox
of which
is taking it
nobody's
live,
ever
MS
seen
and
before.
CNN are not.
And everybody's coming back to America. I
Shocker.
saw that the other day at the cathedral. They're all saying, we want to come back. We want to come back. And with a couple of changes done by Howard and Scott and some of the great people up here with me, we're going to bring them all back. They're all coming back. So thank you very much. This is a great honor. And ringing the bell will be fantastic. And go out and get them. We're with you all the way. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. So Dan, sorry I interrupted you, but I just was curious what he was talking about. Incredible, obviously, that they're all there, and I had no indication of this. I don't know if it was reported, but to have all these people arrayed with him, obviously, as we were saying at the beginning, this is a big deal to him. That building, for those of you who haven't been in that building, it's an incredible building. It's one of the great buildings in New York City, maybe in America. It's ornate. It's filled with energy. It's not what it once was because of electronic trading, but it's a great venue, and I'm sure he's reveling in that. It's a majestic, ornate building. They have a great one. I think they got the second best Christmas tree in all of New York too.
We'll take the president down to the floor. My colleagues are going to help everybody here get down.
That's amazing. They're all there. They're all in New
Yeah.
York.
And we'll see you
Yeah.
down at the bell.
And I mean, you can say it's the group is amazing, but Ivanka, we haven't seen Ivanka very much, and so curious the backstory of how she's there. All right, let's just talk about one
Okay,
more
folks,
thing.
if you have
related.
a
All right,
blue or green stripe
all right,
at the
Paul,
top
kill
of your
that,
badge,
please. One more thing, which is the Xi invitation. It's now been confirmed by Caroline Levitt that Premier Xi's been invited. The China Post, what is that called? The Southern China Post. Is that
South
what it's
China,
called?
yeah. Post,
South
yeah.
China Post.
South China Morning Post.
They say they doubt he'll go because these trips require a lot to plan. But again, I remember, Sean, you'll annotate what I'm saying. Leave aside the kerfuffle over how many people went to the inauguration. There weren't a ton of celebrities, right? And the press, because they were so hostile to Trump and so upset that Hillary lost, compared Obama's inauguration with a lot of star power to Trump's. And so again, he's
Just
getting
so
a
you know,
redo.
folks, I'm not
Yeah, go
muting
ahead.
Mark when he brings this up. That's not me.
Yeah.
Although I
Yeah.
would.
So my point is, like, I don't know if she's going to go or not, but I bet you there'll be a lot of celebrities. I bet a lot of these Silicon Valley celebrities will come. and you just it is an epic story about Trump getting acceptance this time. They're not challenging the result. He won the popular vote. He won every battleground state. He's being extremely active during the transition. This is like the one of the most extraordinary redos, do-overs in American political history. Sean.
I think, it's funny. I've been thinking about how different this was from 2016 and in so many ways. And I think you're absolutely right. People ran away. We had marches that first day. I was down at Mar-a-Lago a couple of weeks ago. Sly Stallone is there. I mean, I was like, what is going on here? There were people that I would never have thought would openly show up anywhere around Trump. But I think that the magnitude and breadth and depth of this victory speaks volumes, not just how well Trump did, but the silence that's happening on the Dems. People are more comfortable now. I mean, like I said earlier, the donation from Zuckerberg, that is such a role reversal. These ideas, Jeff Bezos and others making positive comments. I do think when I spoke to some folks, I was at the Virginia Advance, the Republican gathering for our state party. The number of people that were talking about going to balls and who was going to show up. And it's just, and I'm not talking just regular old folks, but like, oh, well, I heard so-and-so is coming to this one and we're in talks with so-and-so to show up and make an appearance. For Republicans writ large, never mind Trump, this is going to be a very, very different world. We had people in the midst of 2016 who said we're going to get off all of these business advisory boards. Trump had to pledge that he wouldn't go to the Kennedy Center Awards for people to show up. I mean, this is very, very different. Now, we'll see what happens on January 21st and 22nd and 23rd. But I think for right now, you're absolutely right. The tone and tenor of corporate America, of Hollywood, has shifted.
Even the media. For now.
Can I got to tell you one fascinating statistic that a longtime friend of mine dropped at me at lunch. I live in Alexandria, which is pretty much to the left of Moscow. And Alexandria High School has a mock election every year. This was the first year that anybody in the history of the city could recall where the students voted to the right of the city's general population. I mean, just think about what that means for the kids, right? Kids generally, you don't vote Republican. You definitely don't vote for Donald Trump. And here we have the student body at Alexandria City High School, extremely diverse population, voting to the right of the city's population for the first time in history. And I think we saw this monumental shift in the electorate among key constituencies that are critical of the Democratic Party that are mind-boggling to those of us who have been in for a while.
Well, I think, look, let's he won, pretty clearly for a 50-50 country, but it is largely still a 50-50 country. But he won. I also think there is grudging admiration and respect, even amongst the most progressive Democrats, and certainly amongst the media and corporate America. And you heard a little bit of this after the first assassination attempt. Of all that Trump has kind of survived and fought through, right? I mean, if you think about it, if this election goes the other way, we're talking potentially about Donald Trump being in prison. And that, but he won and everything has faded away. He beat all the allegations. He survived 2 assassination attempts. And so I think there is a little bit of like, the guy fought through all of this. The guy won. Like, we're going to treat him normally here. I don't know how long it lasts, but I think there is something real about it.
I want to cover 2 quick things, and I want to take some questions from folks before Trump rings the bell, so we make sure we get folks in. Last night on 2A Tonight, I talked to this guy who's running for the DNC chair, Senator Skoufis of New York. He was actually, I thought, pretty impressive, and part of our D-Future series. And when I told him, because the news broke while we were on, that Donald Trump reportedly was inviting Premier Xi to the inauguration, I said, what do you think of that? He attacked it. He said, he's having a murderous communist dictator. I'm paraphrasing. He shouldn't be inviting him. What do you guys think of the optics of that? To me, it's another thing where the left and the press may have it wrong, that this is Trump's modus operandi. First of all, he wants his inauguration to be a big international event, but he also wants to, that's a chit that, like, inviting the guy particularly if he comes, it's like a way to try to have better relations. It doesn't mean he's going to cave to him. But Dan, what do you think of that? Do you think that's,
I
that's
think
something
it's-
Americans should applaud?
Oh, absolutely. And I didn't know this per playbook this morning. No foreign leader has ever attended a presidential inauguration, which is
kind of it's kind of effed up. Like, why
yeah,
not?
it is. I mean, look, it's
We
not
go to
like
theirs.
all the
I mean,
time. All the
Here's
time.
the thing, like, it's not like Donald Trump is flying halfway around the world to go pay homage to Xi for his, whatever, swearing.
Kind of the opposite.
Yeah, if the guy is going to come here and kiss the ring and be photographed in the crowd, like look, good for Donald Trump. I mean, Democrats would do the same thing. Anything that would say like it's new, it's fresh, like people are coming to kiss the ring, like great. I mean, I had the idea that he's a communist and he's the second most powerful person in the world. Like, if he wants to come kiss the ring, great.
Sean, what do you think?
One, I actually hadn't thought about the fact until I read it as well this morning, and I thought to myself, it is fascinating. We always send a delegation to other people's funerals, inaugurations.
Everybody's.
Right, and I was thinking to myself, this is weird. Now, I will say this: the diplomatic corps generally goes to these kind of things. They come to our State of the Union, so that like the ambassadors, the diplomatic corps. But I thought about it, and I'm like, gosh, I've never. Even like, the Prime Minister of England, the Prime Minister of the
France. Like, why didn't the President of France come to JFK's inaugural? It's nuts.
I tell you what, somebody will accept this to be the first.
Yeah,
somebody's going to do it quickly.
Let's see if we can get like Michael Beschloss on the phone. Somebody can try to book Michael Beschloss or somebody. I want some historian to explain this. All right, last thing.
I wonder if Trudeau does it.
Yeah.
You know what though? But I think, by the way, just so we get credit for this, I think Dan's absolutely right. Somebody, Viktor Orban from Hungary is going to be like, hey, I didn't get my invite yet. But
who's the guy from England, the new Labor leader?
Maybe
whatever.
Maybe Trump's invited a bunch of them, and my friend Jennifer Jacobs, who just started CBS News, who broke it. Maybe he's invited a ton of people. Just she's the only one we know about.
Well, for soundbite purposes, let's just hold on. Pause. 1, 2, 3. There will be a world leader invited to Donald Trump's inauguration for the first time in American history. Pause.
What's already happened? He's already invited.
Room tone.
All right, good, fine. Cut that. Put it.
By the way,
social.
Mark, real quick, I did get an answer. Quote, they always wait a week to put out the podcast was the answer about the New York Times.
Doesn't make any sense. Sitting on news.
Just telling you. That was that's the New York Times answer.
Two quick things on Democrats. First, do you guys have anything to say about the pardons? To me, until we see the names, it doesn't really mean much. But anybody want to say anything about that? All right, Dan,
I know. I mean, look, the only thing I'd say is like, this is what he should have done, because you're setting a tone of forgiveness, of rehabilitation. Like, this is the runway that you would build to slowly go down to ultimately, potentially do Hunter. So
yes,
just makes you laugh.
It's literally, you mix this in with Hunter, Dan, and it's like 1,500 people. The progressives would have to have said, yes, but I mean, this was political malpractice.
Yeah. I mean,
okay. Yeah. All right. Dan, you wanted to say something about AOC. Please make your AOC point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, so I said yesterday, for those who don't follow the minutia of Capitol Hill committee elections, it appears that AOC is going to jump the line on the House Government Oversight and Reform Committee, which is not an insignificant committee in any way, shape, or form, particularly in the next couple of years. And, I said, like, I don't agree with a lot of what AOC stands for on policy. But what I have great admiration for is she is authentic. She is nimble. She understands social media and how to communicate. She speaks clearly and passionately. And she is actually fairly politically smart. Even her kind of growth and maturity of playing ball with the rest of the caucus versus trying to burn the caucus down. I think this is great. When you are in the minority in the House, you are the loyal opposition. Your job is to pick fights, to highlight problems. You don't come up with a message. Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer, candidates are going to do that. I think this is excellent. I think the party needs more of these young, nimble fighters versus these old bulls that, put out press releases. So I think it's absolutely fantastic.
It cannot be understated. She jumped Jerry Connolly from Virginia to take over this ranking member. And this is number 3, by the way, right? So you had the Resources Committee. You've got and then what am I missing, Dan?
David Scott's going to go down on the Agriculture Committee.
On the Ag Committee.
And it's
but
huge.
This is, and these guys aren't even putting up a fight. They're literally just caving.
Yeah. You know what else can't be understated? Sean's tendency to misuse understated.
Oh, hey,
welcome.
Mark, can I make one other note that didn't get talked about on the pardon?
As long as you apologize to Chris Williams for interrupting.
Chris, I'm teeing you up potentially. Bill Clinton said I think it was either the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, that if he were Joe Biden, he would not start issuing all these pardons to the J6 committee people and everyone. I think, he's one of the smartest political people. It would impact his own wife potentially. He said, I would not do this. And I think it's a shot across the bow to Joe Biden. Don't start issuing these all these pardons to the
Between Anita Dunn and Bill Clinton, there's been some speaking going on. Chris Williams, by my estimation, that corn behind you is as high as an elephant's eye. Welcome.
Yeah, that's the quickest background I could pick to shade all the personal stuff behind me.
Where are you today, Chris?
Chantilly, Virginia.
Chantilly lace and a pretty face and a ponytail hanging down. Chris, welcome in. What's on your mind, sir?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd really love. First of all, thank you all. You do a great job here, and it's great to be off Trigger Media and with you guys. I have some questions about pardoning and lawfare, and I'd really love a response from all sides.
All right. I'll just warn you, as I can tell, you're headed down a big wind up here. At 9:30, we're going to go live to the exchange. So let's see if we can get this done before then.
I'll be really quick. Yes, so the potential for Biden to put out like a preemptive pardon that's blanketing for people that have never even been charged for a crime. Is that something? I'd love to hear your opinion on that. If that's legal, if you think that would be how politically that would work, but also legally, is that something? I'm a little nervous about the direction we're going. And then also, just as a citizen, right? Looking at some of the claims, and I'm not trying to be on one side or the other, but there is concern that I have, is the lawfare against the potential lawfare against J6ers. There's lots of buzz out there, and as someone who has a day job, it's really hard to understand if some of these things are true. But I've heard that you could just charge someone for conspiracy and not really even need evidence, and they can sit in jail waiting for a trial. Do you guys have an opinion on this? And don't get me wrong, everyone I think on both sides agrees violence is bad, but in general, both sides have been concerned about lawfare. I've heard people on the left, especially people from the LGBT community, people that work with me and for me, very concerned and afraid when Trump got elected. And then I've also heard very good friends of mine on the other side concerned that this is getting, pushed out. Go ahead.
All right, Chris, hold on, stand by. Let's go ahead and go live to the exchange floor.
I think it may be a minute or two here.
Yeah, we'll enjoy it.
And for those who don't know, usually when a company does this, they put their logo in the backdrop. So the fact that we have 2 time covers is something.
And of course, you can do the criminology of who gets to be on the stage and who's now sitting down below. Yeah. I guess it's the family.
And JD Vance.
He's family.
Where's Elon?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
He might have had to be running one of his several companies today. I don't know. Also, Don and Eric obviously aren't there. Barron's not there, but
I mean, Barron could almost walk there.
That's a long walk. All right, let's stay with this because it's about to be 9:30, and then I guess maybe he's not going to make remarks here because he already did, but maybe he will. So we'll see.
I don't think you do from there. I don't think he's mic'd either.
Not typically, but
Sean, are you saying he'd follow customs and norms?
Exactly.
I mean...
No. That's why I said he's not mic'd.
Yeah, he could just scream.
Yeah,
he could just scream. I gotta say, if you ever get a chance to tour the building, I recommend it. It's an incredible. The floor is iconic, but there's room after room that's just ornate and high ceilings and just beautiful everything.
Yeah, so now this is the build up. Yeah.
Son, what are Spicer futures trading at today?
I'll have to look.
The Hang Seng.
I will say Trading Places was on last night. This is the,
So,
look at that smile.
Son, who's the woman standing between Ivanka and Melania?
I think she's got to work for the exchange.
Yeah, the other woman does. The woman next to Tiffany does. Maybe they both do.
Because she's not, I mean, I've never seen her before, so she's not.
Okay. All right, here we go. History being made. Never in the history of the United States has a president-elect rung the bell on the same day he was formally named Time Person of the Year. It's never happened. I made that up. I mean, it's factually true, but whatever.
Now, let's hope the market has a good day.
See, if I were producing this, I'd play YMCA right now, but that's just me.
Yeah, good for him.
All right. And what happens now? Walk off?
Back to
I can't
Chris.
remember. How's
Chris
it
was
end?
asking us about lawfare and the pardons.
Oh yeah, we'll get to Chris. Hold on. I just want to play this out because kind of interesting stuff here. All right.
Oh, they're going to watch
Chris.
it.
Yeah,
Chris,
Elon may be buying right now.
Yeah. Chris, the answer to your first question is the presidential pardon power is pretty absolute. It's never really been questioned about, does it have limits? Now, in this case, the only way to test it would be to bring a case and say, the chance that some federal prosecutor would bring a case against Hunter and then hope that it survived a challenge, I think is pretty remote. So the only way the power of the pardon could be fettered is if the co-equal branch of the judiciary chose to try to fetter it. I don't think they would, but like I said, I don't think there'd be a case that would be brought to test it. So I think it'll stand unfettered. You guys want to talk about J6 and answer Chris's second half, assuming you remember what he asked?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of each case. Obviously, they've brought a lot of them. As you said, no one supports violence, and that was a pretty violent day, and a lot of property and people and policemen were harmed. And so people should be held accountable, in my opinion, for that. I don't know. I find it hard to believe that you could just kind of hold people for nothing, but I don't know. The flip side to this is the potential for Joe Biden to issue blanket pardons to the congressional committee members that launched the investigation, Liz Cheney and others. I personally really worry about that. I don't believe, to what I know, that they did anything wrong. I think they were doing their job, and I think it was the right thing to do to investigate what was a terrible and tragic day for the country. If you issue pardons, it does feed the idea that something might be wrong, that people did something they weren't supposed to do. And if you're trying to rebuild trust in institutions and people, in my opinion, that is not a good way to do it. This has been building for years. I mean, it's almost become a statement, and Sean could speak to this probably, cringing more than anybody, that if you serve in a senior position in government, you are going to accrue hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal bills, whether it was the Clinton administration, the Bush administration. People will come after you. They use the court system to grind and intimidate people down. Both sides do it. This is not a D or an R thing. And it's unsustainable on some level. And if the precedent is just pardon everyone, just blanketly, one day it will come out somebody did something really wrong and that it was horrible to pardon he or she.
Two pieces to this. On the preemptive pardons. There's a couple things. One, I agree with Dan said. I mean, you're really going down a slippery slope here in terms of pardoning someone for a window. I mean, there's a lot of things that can happen, and that's what you'd have to do is say anything that happened during this 4-year period that means if they were, complicit in another crime that had nothing to do with anything that's relevant in the news today, I think it's a very dangerous precedent to go down. Every president would just start issuing them for everyone who served in their administration going forward. To Dan's point, though, I mean, look, I get why he wants to do it. Having been through this, when you are not even a target and you get called in front of a congressional committee or a Mueller probe, it's thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to make sure that your interests are protected. It is not a joke, and it destroys lives. There's actually a really interesting column that a former colleague of mine, Michael Caputo, also in Florida, put out on his Substack, just talking about what these probes have done to people's lives. So I understand why they want to do them, but I think it is a horrible precedent to preemptively pardon someone for a crime that they didn't commit, that they think they didn't commit. I also do think that there is some culpability. What Liz Cheney did with respect to Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony and going around her attorney, she should be held accountable for that. So don't let people, I mean, if no one's above the law, which is what Joe Biden says, then let them face the consequences. The other thing is, on the J6 thing, I agree with I think you and with most folks. If you hit a cop, if you broke the law, you should be punished. Okay, I have no tolerance for abusing individuals, whether they're in law enforcement or not, but especially law enforcement. That being said, some of the stories that I've heard about people who are in jail right now and being detained basic legal rights to access to an attorney, to a trial, to a speedy trial. I mean, if this was any other case but J6, America would be outraged at how some of these people are being held and detained and processed. The stories of some of these individuals that merely attended something. And again, I will go down to when I go down to the mall, if I see a group gathering, maybe it's just, I have a curiosity about why people are gathering. Why are they? I mean, I love it sometimes. And I love our government at work and the ability of people to gather sometimes. And I'll ask, what are you doing here? And watch for 15 minutes sometimes. The idea that some people got rolled up for being in the wrong place at the wrong time and are having their lives destroyed is un-American. And so there's a big difference between people who committed crimes and people who are just in the wrong place at the wrong time, who had a problem, who wanted to protest something that they saw as a wrong and are now having their lives destroyed. And so I think because so many people were outraged by J6, they're willing to look the other way on what has happened with respect to so many of the people that are sitting in jail right now.
I know. Producer. I mean, look, I did this program. It's the holiday season. I just want to lodge. There are many things I disagree with Sean that Sean just said, but it's another program for another day.
Producer people, did you put that link in the chats? Did that happen already?
We sure did.
Okay, thank you. Michael Caputo, who Sean mentioned, is someone I know well as Sean does. Read his piece. It's in the chat. You can agree with his politics or not, but what happened to his family is a horrible story about cancel culture and about the destructive forces that were unleashed when Donald Trump was targeted in the Russiagate investigation. And I urge you to read it in the spirit of peace, love, and understanding and the presumption of grace to understand how lives can be destroyed in this country when people step onto the public stage to do things they believe in and forces come after them in an unforgiving way. So I urge you to read it. It's a great piece. Chris, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. All right. Michelle, come on in. Tell folks where you are, what's on your mind, please. Delighted to have you here. There you go.
Oh, well, I'm delighted to be here. This is, I like watching history unfold, and this is a great platform. I'm 71 years old and a Trump voter, which if you look at me, I don't fit the mold.
Michelle, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. I apologize. I want you to keep talking. Where do you live? And have you voted in the past for Republicans?
Oh, yes. I as a young woman, I was Democrat. You just grew up Democrat. And I have an 89-year-old mother who's still Democrat and is not happy to hear that her daughter is voting for Donald Trump.
And Michelle,
I
just tell us where you live.
Oh, Rochester, New York, upstate
Okay.
New York.
Okay,
I
great.
understand.
The floor is yours. I won't interrupt. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I understand I'm going to be getting a $300 a gimme for whatever reason, I don't know, which is annoying to me. You don't have to buy my vote if you are above board. If I also want to say that I really love this platform because I get to be exposed to all of you who, like Dan. I feel like when I saw him on Fox, I just started jumping around, going, I watch him every morning. Yeah, and again, as a Trump voter, I really am so glad that I figured out how to get on, because I don't fit the mold. I am clearly, when I see the devastation in the cities that are run primarily by the Democrats, as a Black voter, it distresses me. I raised 4 children in the city of Rochester, but I would not let them go to city schools because and this was back, in the 80s and 90s, and now they're just horrendous. So when I hear that they're going to do away with the Department of Education and things like that, I'm thrilled, because it's broken. And disproportionately young Black people, they're coming up on the short end because of it. So I don't really have a question, but I did want to be able to say to you and to all the people on here that there are Black people who voted for Donald Trump. Yeah. and the reason being, he yes, he says things with no filter. I have been accused of that in my lifetime. But he tells the truth. It was very distressing to watch the current press secretary be deceitful day after day after day. Better not to say anything at all than to be deceitful. So,
Michelle, we couldn't be more grateful to you for being here. 3 quick things. 1, is it okay if we ask you some questions? Is that all right?
Sure, absolutely.
2,
yes.
Okay, Sean's going to go first. 2, would you like to go to the inauguration?
I would love to bring my mother with me.
All right. Well, that's my 3rd thing. If you want to go to the inauguration, we're going to try to figure out how to make it happen. But 3 is my only disappointment about your appearance with us here today is you didn't bring your mom. And I hope next time you come, you'll bring her.
Well, she's a dyed in the wool.
Yeah.
When she voted for Obama and I didn't, oh my goodness, that was not a good thing.
We want you both on here. We're gonna revitalize Crossfire with you and your mom. Sean, question for Michelle.
You mentioned you have 4 kids. How are they voting?
That's interesting. I have 2 of my children have passed away, but the 2 that are left are split right down the middle. One is a Democrat, and the other is when I tell you that he's a Republican, he's in Georgia, and he's a bigger Trump fan than I am. He really is. He loves Donald Trump, and but my daughter, nope, she voted for Kamala, and again, it makes me sad because I see how we suffered under the last last administration because of the economy. It was, whether they want to admit it or not. Again, Dan, you're refreshing in that you at least admit there were things they needed to address to the public and didn't. To tell me that gas hasn't doubled and groceries haven't doubled, it was insulting. And still, not all of you, I imagine, Democrats, but a lot of them still are like, oh, they're misogynistic and they're racist. And it's like, no, for the most part, that's not the case. So, yeah.
Michelle, hold on 1 second before Dan asks you a question. A little bit of news. First of all, in the Trump Time interview, he seems to support maintaining the filibuster. He says this about the Biden administration allowing Ukraine to shoot U.S. supplied missiles into Russia. I quote, I think the most dangerous thing right now is what's happening, where Zelensky has decided, with the approval of, I assume, the president, meaning President Biden, to start shooting missiles into Russia. I think that's a major escalation. I think it's a foolish decision. Biggest news of the day for many of us, YouTube TV is raising its prices $10 a month.
Yeah.
So we'll probably have to do a whole episode about that. Dan, question
But
for
Mark,
Michelle.
he doesn't say, I mean, I'm asking or deducing, he doesn't say he'd stop the missiles going in. He just says it was a foolish decision. I mean, there's a difference there of criticizing it, but not undoing it.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. It's a good question.
Okay.
Dan, question for Michelle, if you have one.
Michelle, you it sounds like you have voted Republican prior to Trump. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not, you're attracted to Trump, but you're attracted to the Republican Party writ large.
Yes, because of their conservative stand. Again, you all have mentioned it on this platform. I do not like the idea of biological boys in women's sports. I don't like it. And I don't like being called a bigot because I don't like it.
Sure.
It's just that's not a way to win things over.
Sure.
As someone who looks at anti-Semitism, that distresses me. And again, you can't stop hate, but you can certainly speak up and say, I don't agree with this. And trying to ride the fence, it's disingenuous. It's just disingenuous. When we need to say, you can have an opinion, but you cannot, to know that Jewish students were being locked in rooms, Riley Gaines locked in a room. That's just unacceptable in America. And it happened, and no one spoke up about it.
Michelle, you are so tough, fearless, and able to take on all comers. I'm now about to subject you to the hardest moment of your day. Mr. Chris Simmons, not a Trump supporter, from Atlanta, Georgia. Mr. Simmons, what would you like to say to Michelle or ask Michelle? Because you two both love America, both love your families, but don't see eye to eye on Donald J. Trump. So, Chris, the floor is yours. Ask Michelle a question, annotate what she said, whatever you'd like. Happy holidays. Glad to have you back. You haven't been here in a while.
Good morning, Michelle. I've spent some time up in upstate New York. It's a beautiful country.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I would say, Michelle, is that I think if we had a couple of hours together, I might be able to not necessarily make you change your mind about who you voted for, but I would assert that the Republicans have done a very good job of pinning some things on the Democrats that really aren't true. I can tell you that the vast majority of Democrats I know are not into the bathroom wars, really. Now, whether the Democratic Party has done a good job of making that clear, that's another question. And I would also say most Democrats believe that, and I was an econ major in college, presidents don't really control economies. There's a whole lot of other factors that do, but
I'm aware of that.
Cause everybody to think that the price of eggs is because Biden did something, when actually there was a flu in the world that actually increased the price of eggs. So I guess my point is, I think there are a lot of things that you attribute to the Democrats that I don't really think are really what the Democrats believe in. But the one place I would really challenge you on is when you said Donald Trump tells the truth, because I don't even think his own people believe.
Politicians don't tell the truth, and I'm aware of that. You see, the difference is, and I would agree with you that the president alone is not responsible for what happened in the economy. Do you know what picture I have in my mind? Day one of Joe Biden sitting there signing a pile of executive orders. And if the Democrats are different, they need to figure out how to communicate that better. That, again, being deceived, looked at, and something that has nothing to do with Donald Trump is the situation of them saying that Joe Biden was healthy, running rings around them. That wasn't true. And the fact that they were saying that it was cheap fakes and all of that, you can only, one of your senators said yesterday, you can only push people so far. She said that, which I found distressing in regards to a man being shot in the back. So you're right. Donald Trump is gonna not always be honest, but he's a politician.
Michelle,
none of them are.
Michelle, Chris Holman, Michelle, we often ask folks on here who voted for Harris, Vice President Harris, do you understand why people voted for Trump? Let me ask you that question. Why do you think so many people voted for Kamala Harris?
Because they don't like Donald Trump. I mean, it came down to that. Because I have a friend who voted for Kamala, and she voted for Joe Biden. And largely it was because she doesn't like Donald Trump, which again, apparently enough people were persuaded to vote for him this time. And thankfully, he won the popular vote and the Electoral College. They said that he protested. Kristen Welker said, are you going to concede the 2020 election? Well, I'm sorry. Stacey Abrams has been running around America for the past 8 years claiming she's the governor of Georgia. So again, I look at the policies. I look at the policies, and when it comes down to it, I've never been on welfare. I've always worked my entire life. So to tell my son, I'll give you weed and a bag of money was insulting. It was insulting.
Chris, you want to say one more thing?
Yeah, but actually, is Sean still there?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Sean's got the Jiffy Pop out. Enjoying
Sean knows when to be quiet.
Sean, I want to know when I'm going to get my autographed dollar bill with less than 15% on it.
I'll send it to you now, Chris. I'll send you 2 if you take on Michelle more, because right now she's crushing this.
Michelle, we hope you come back regularly. Bring your mom or your son or your daughter, whoever you want. But we loved having you here. And Chris, again, great to see you back. Thank you both.
Thank you
for being part of two-way.
Chris, I heard you debate another Republican.
There's a $2 bill with your name on it. If you'll agree to go 2 rounds with Michelle.
Well,
sorry, hold on, Michelle. Hold on, Michelle was making a point. Go ahead, Michelle.
Well, I heard Chris debate another Republican on here. That was before I knew it was two-way. My biggest problem is I watch all day long different programs. My friends get a little tired of my mouth and what I know, except I feel it's important to be involved. It is.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Great message, Michelle. And you know a ton of stuff. And I normally, as you know, I normally don't read the chat, but people in the chat are very, very impressed with how much you know. So thank you both for coming on, and hope we'll see you before the holidays, but have a great holiday. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mike Egan, come on in. Tell folks where you are. What's on your mind, please, after you unmute.
Hi, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. I grew up in New York. I lived there my first 38 years. In
the city?
I grew up in Westchester County.
Okay.
worked in the city for a long time. My question to Dan would be, there was a Hispanic woman on prior to the election, and she was on with a white man from New Hampshire, and I think it might have been Chris. And she totally rejected identity politics. And that looked like, that's like a death sentence to the Democrats from what I say. How will the Democrats deal with that?
Great question.
Yeah, great
Dan.
question. I think the party has to stop looking at everything in such a tactical way, right? Which is to say, when they approach the election, okay, we need to get 2% more with blacks, and we need to increase with Latino, instead of having kind of a broader message to the country, right? It's that, and Hillary Clinton got caught in this a little bit, just slicing everything into such small little pieces that you kind of lose the forest for the trees, so to speak. And I think that hopefully whatever the party comes up with appeals to everybody. But I think we have gotten caught in these, like, we got to squeeze every vote out of women, and we've got to, Latinos should vote for us because of immigration. Hopefully we step back and have a broader set of messages that inspires a lot of people. I mean, what Trump ran on to inspire African-American, let's say men, okay, and Latinos, is the same message today that he had in 2020, and it's the same message he had in 2016. Strong economy, energy independence, right? Getting out of the wars, like law and order in cities. There's a little bit of margin adjustment, but there's an authenticity and a consistency to what he has said, right? For Democrats, we've been all over the place. Kamala was all over the place between 19 and 24. She was all over the place during 24 at times. And so it just comes across as this phony tactical, stuff that voters don't believe. And voters feel it's very cheap, right?
Yeah. Sean, do you want to say anything?
I'd just say, to Dan's point, I think the difference is that Trump, the issue that most people had with Trump was personality, not policy writ large, right? I think what the Biden administration showed was how much policy matters in everyone's everyday life. And they said, you know what, we're willing to put up with a lot of tweets if we can get the policy back. And that there was a recognition and a reality of the differences that a president's policies have on your everyday life. And we saw that at the ballot box.
Mike, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Mike, you know what's painful for Democrats? We should have learned the lesson because Bill Clinton ran on the same thing, right? I mean, George H.W. Bush pulled his hair out. He's a draft dodging, pot smoking, he was like, how could people vote for that? It's the economy, stupid, right? I'll fight for you, like, forget the noise. And he did it in re-election too. Somehow we forgot about that.
Mr. Egan, thank you. We appreciate you coming. Happy holidays. Grateful to you. Come back regularly. All right, folks, a couple things. Tonight, two-way tonight, special time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. 5 p.m., not 6. 5 p.m. Eastern time. That says 6. Take that graphic down. It's only going to drive there. 5. There you go. Special time. So see you at 5 tonight. We got at least one surprise for you that you will love. So see you then. I mentioned Margot Martin before, the Trump aide who travels with him. She shoots her own video. Incredibly impressive. We saw throughout the campaign photo ops, right? We saw him do the garbage truck. We saw him do McDonald's. Saw him go to the wrestling events, fighting events. Incredibly important for shaping the image. And we want to know, in the transition and in the presidency, is he going to keep doing that stuff, right? Transition, he's been mostly off camera. Here's one more look at Donald Trump at the stock exchange. You tell me, with no disrespect meant to the vice president, could she do this?
What's up, guys? It's 9:48. Shouldn't you be making money?
JD, all our guys, thrilled to see you. I know this is it. Can't wait for you.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
There's anybody who's our guy, you're our guy. This is it. You are our guy.
Now, again, there's photo ops she can do that Trump can't do, but that trading floor is as bro-y as any other place. And you saw what he did there. And again, Margaret Martin, she's just a genius because that event, that way she shoots that makes it what it is. If it happens and she's not there, it's a tree falling in the forest. Sean, what did you want to say?
You know, it was really interesting when I was press secretary. I would have that sort of stuff. I was like, I thought it was taboo, right? You would never do that. I didn't fully appreciate how much Trump appreciated and recognized it. Stan Scavino was at the forefront of this. Margot has taken it to a whole new level, and she does it really well with how she frames it, how steady her hand is. There's like, he broke so many molds. And I literally was like, oh, I got to be careful we don't shoot behind the scenes footage because most politicians would be like, please don't do this. He welcomed it.
And you know what?
And I bet they keep it up in the White House. Yeah,
I'm going to go back. You know the one Democrat who does that stuff really well? AOC. You follow her. She's constantly, people are filming her like in her district, in a bar, in places. It's authentic. Trump looked comfortable, happy as a clam. So did JD Vance. Good politicians enjoy being around people.
Hey, Mark, one shameless plug. I've gotten asked by a lot of people about the inauguration and tickets and stuff like this. And so two things. Number one, if you're looking for tickets to the inauguration, the easiest thing is to go to your member of Congress. Dan knows this. Every member, Republican or Democrat, gets an allotment. Reach out to your member of Congress. I am going to put in my newsletter tomorrow. I've got a link. If you're willing to pay, I don't make any money off of this, but I've gotten enough questions now. Instead of answering them, I'm going to send them to. I've gotten a link where you can go and it'll explain everything. I'm going to embed it in the newsletter tomorrow at SeanSpicer.com. But those are the two places that I've got enough questions that I'm just going to start pushing people to say this is where I'm putting it all. So
great.
Check it out.
Great. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks to Michelle and Chris and Mike and others who asked questions. Really appreciate it. Producers did a fantastic job as they always do today, but very grateful to handle all that live stuff and all the late elements brilliantly. So thank you for that. And I will see you 5 Eastern time, special time tonight, 5 Eastern time. And then we'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time here for another edition of the morning meeting. Have a great day, everybody.